What if I told you that your future is already being created? Not next year, not next month, not tomorrow, right now, at this very moment. And the most surprising part? Most people have absolutely no idea it's happening. They believe their future will be determined by luck, by circumstances, by the economy, by the people around them, by opportunities that may or may not appear. But what if all of that is only part of the story? What if there is another force operating quietly beneath the surface? A force that influences the decisions you make, the opportunities you notice, the risks you take, the habits you repeat, and ultimately the direction of your entire life. That force is your mental blueprint, an invisible map running in the background of your mind. Most people never see it, yet they follow it every day. Think about this. Why do two people face the same challenge but respond completely differently? Why does one person see possibility while another sees only obstacles? Why does one person keep moving forward while another remains trapped in the same cycle for years? The answer may not be found in intelligence, it may not be found in talent, and it may not even be found in hard work. The answer often begins with something much deeper, the pictures they repeatedly hold inside their minds. Because whether you realize it or not, your brain is constantly creating predictions. Predictions about who you are, predictions about what you deserve, predictions about what is possible, and predictions about what your future is likely to become. These predictions influence your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and eventually your results. Here's the dangerous part. Most people never consciously create these predictions. They inherit them from childhood, from fear, from social media, from negative experiences, from criticism, from disappointment, from years of repeating the same mental stories over and over again. Without realizing it, they allow other people to design the blueprint that guides their lives. And then they wonder why nothing changes. They set goals. They buy books. They watch motivational videos. They promise themselves that this year will be different. For a few days, they feel inspired, maybe even for a few weeks. But eventually, they return to the same patterns, the same habits, the same doubts, the same limitations. And the reason is simple. You cannot consistently create a future that your mind cannot clearly see. Think about a builder trying to construct a house without a blueprint. Every decision becomes confusing. Every step feels uncertain. Progress slows down. Mistakes multiply. The same thing happens in life. If your future exists only as a vague wish, your brain has nothing clear to follow. No direction, no structure, no target. This is where most people get stuck. Not because they lack potential, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack a clear mental image of where they are actually going. And that is where Reality Blueprint comes in. Reality Blueprint is a simple but powerful method designed to help you intentionally create the mental blueprint your brain follows every day. Instead of allowing fear and uncertainty to shape your future automatically, you begin consciously designing the future you want to experience. And while the idea may sound simple, the science behind it is surprisingly powerful, because your brain learns through repetition. Every thought you repeat becomes more familiar. Every belief you reinforce becomes stronger. Every image you repeatedly focus on becomes more important in your mind. Over time, these repeated patterns influence how you see the world. And once your perception changes, your decisions begin to change. Your behavior begins to change. And eventually, your life begins to change. But before I show you exactly how Reality Blueprint works, there's something fascinating you need to understand about the human brain. Something that explains why some people seem to attract opportunities while others constantly feel stuck. And once you understand this principle, you'll never look at your thoughts the same way again. Why your brain filters reality. To understand why Reality Blueprint works, you first need to understand something remarkable about the human brain. Every second, your brain receives an overwhelming amount of information. the sounds around you, the temperature of the room, the feeling of your clothes against your skin, the countless objects within your field of vision, the thoughts moving through your mind. If your brain tried to process everything equally, you would be overwhelmed almost instantly. So instead, it does something extraordinary. It filters reality. Every day, your brain decides what deserves your attention and what can be ignored. And here's the important part. Your brain usually looks for evidence that supports what it already believes. Think about what happens when you decide to buy a specific car. Suddenly, you start seeing that car everywhere. At first, it feels strange, almost as if those cars appeared overnight. But they didn't. They were always there. The only thing that changed was your attention. Your brain decided that information was now important. And once it became important, it began highlighting it. The same process affects every area of your life. If you believe opportunities are rare, your brain will constantly notice obstacles. If you believe success belongs to other people, your brain will find evidence supporting that belief. If you believe change is difficult, your mind will focus on every challenge that confirms it. In many ways, your reality becomes a reflection of what your brain has been trained to notice. And this is exactly why Reality Blueprint can be so powerful, because it gives your brain a new target, a new direction, a new pattern to follow. Instead of constantly searching for problems, your attention begins searching for possibilities, not because reality changed, but because your focus changed. And when focus changes, behavior often follows. The invisible conversation happening inside your mind. Most people think their future is shaped by major decisions: choosing a career, starting a business, moving to a new city, getting married. While those decisions certainly matter, they are often influenced by something much smaller: the thousands of conversations you have with yourself every day. Most people never notice them. They happen automatically, quietly, in the background. Sometimes they sound like, "I'm not good enough. I always fail. People like me don't succeed. It's too late. I'm not ready. I'll probably mess this up." These thoughts may seem harmless, but when repeated enough times, they begin forming the blueprint your brain follows. The mind treats repetition as importance. The more often you think something, the more familiar it becomes. And familiarity often starts feeling like truth. This is one of the reasons people become trapped in cycles they desperately want to escape, not because they lack ability, but because their internal blueprint keeps leading them back to the same destination. Reality Blueprint interrupts that cycle. It allows you to intentionally introduce new images, new expectations, new possibilities, new stories about who you can become. Over time, these new mental patterns begin competing with the old ones, and eventually, if repeated consistently, they can become stronger. Why emotion changes everything. Here's something many people misunderstand about visualization. Images alone are not enough. Emotion is what gives them power. Imagine looking at a photograph of a beautiful beach. You see the ocean, the sand, the sunlight, but you feel nothing. The image disappears from your memory almost immediately. Now imagine standing on that beach, feeling the warm sun on your skin, hearing the waves crash against the shore, smelling the salt in the air, feeling completely free and alive. The experience becomes unforgettable. Why? Because emotion tells your brain, this matters. And the brain pays attention to what feels emotionally important. That is why the most effective reality blueprints are not just collections of images. They are emotional experiences. They help you feel connected to the future you're creating. Not someday, not years from now, but today, right now. Because the more emotionally real your future feels, the easier it becomes to act in alignment with it. And that alignment is where transformation begins. A simple exercise. Before we continue, try something. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself 1 year from today. not the version of you that exists now, the version of you who successfully achieved an important goal. Maybe you're healthier, maybe you're more confident, maybe you've built something meaningful, maybe you've found peace after years of stress. Look around. Where are you? What do you see? How do you feel? How do you carry yourself? What has changed? Most people rarely spend time asking these questions, but your answers reveal something important. They reveal the future your mind is capable of imagining. And the clearer that future becomes, the easier it is for your brain to move toward it. But there is still one critical piece missing, one mistake that causes most people to abandon their goals long before they see results. And understanding that mistake may be the difference between temporary motivation and lasting transformation. The mistake that keeps most people stuck. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They don't fail because they're not intelligent enough, and they certainly don't fail because they're incapable of changing. They fail because they quit too soon. Think about how often this happens. Someone starts a new habit. They exercise for a week, meditate for a few days, work on a goal for a month. Then they look around and see no dramatic results. Nothing seems different. Nothing feels different. So they assume it's not working and they stop. But here's what most people never realize. For a long time, change is invisible. A seed planted in the ground doesn't look impressive. From the surface, it appears that nothing is happening. Yet beneath the soil, an entire system is developing. Roots are growing. Connections are forming. A foundation is being built. The same thing happens inside your mind. When you begin creating a reality blueprint, you may not notice immediate results. You may still have doubts. You may still feel uncertain. You may still face obstacles. But beneath the surface, something important is happening. Your attention is changing. Your expectations are changing. Your internal story is changing. And eventually, those invisible changes begin producing visible results. This is why patience matters, not because transformation is slow, but because the deepest transformations happen before you can see them. How to create your own reality blueprint. Now let's bring everything together. Creating a reality blueprint is surprisingly simple. You don't need expensive software. You don't need special training. You don't need hours every day. All you need is clarity. Step 1, choose a future worth moving toward, not a goal someone else gave you, not a goal society expects from you. Your goal, something that genuinely excites you. Step 2, collect images and videos that represent that future. If your goal is health, find images that represent strength, energy, and vitality. If your goal is financial freedom, find images that represent the lifestyle you're building. If your goal is personal growth, find images that represent confidence, peace, wisdom, and purpose. Step 3, combine those images into a short video. 1 or 2 minutes is enough. This becomes your reality blueprint, a visual representation of the future you're intentionally creating. Step 4, add music that creates emotion, because emotion is what makes the experience memorable. Emotion tells the brain, this matters. Step 5, watch your reality blueprint every day, especially in the morning and before bed. These are moments when the mind is often more receptive to new patterns and ideas. And remember, the purpose isn't to escape reality. The purpose is to train your focus. Why this works. Reality blueprint doesn't magically change the world around you. It changes the way you interact with the world around you. And that changes everything. You begin noticing opportunities you once ignored. You begin making decisions that align with your future instead of your fears. You begin acting more intentionally, more consistently, more confidently. And over time, those small decisions create extraordinary results, not because your future appeared overnight, but because you gradually became the person capable of creating it. That is the real secret. The goal was never simply to achieve something. The goal was to become someone whose habits, beliefs, actions, and attention naturally support the life they want to build. Remember the question we started with? At the beginning of this video, I asked you a simple question. What if your future is already being shaped right now? Now you know the answer. It is. Every day, with every thought you repeat, every image you focus on, every story you tell yourself about who you are and what is possible. Your brain is constantly creating a blueprint. The question is not whether a blueprint exists. The question is, who designed it? Was it created by fear, by doubt, by past failures, by other people's opinions, or was it created intentionally by you? Because whether you realize it or not, you are already moving toward the future your mind expects. And that's why Reality Blueprint matters. It gives you the opportunity to stop living inside a blueprint you inherited and start designing one of your own, one image, one decision, one day at a time. Because the future isn't something you discover, it's something you create. And creation always begins with a blueprint. That blueprint begins in your mind. And today is the perfect day to start building it.